Hi, welcome, friend. Before we begin this talk, I felt it appropriate to sit in this space where I light a candle. For this in itself, although as a talk, I also see it as a ceremony. I am here as soul speaking to your soul, and what is to be received in anything and everything that I share to you in this talk. And so we can sit around the fire together in this way as we have this conversation. And so, welcome. Welcome to this talk about entering sacred ground with your animal friend, how they are in our life leading us to soul work, to sacred, and to ceremony in our life and coexistence with them, in their transition, and also in our grief journey. And in this talk today, this is exactly what I'm going to be sharing with you of the concept of, well, what is sacred ground? What is soul work? The tenderness and delicate nature of the inevitable transition that our animal friends will experience, and also the grief journey that we will go through with that, and how it is all woven together in soul work and what our animal friends are leading us to. So before I kind of go into this talk, for those of you that don't know me, I just wanted to share with you a little bit about myself. A long, long journey. So I will keep this short because I'm not here to talk about me. I really want to get this information to you. And I also appreciate your time and your space and your dedication in being here. So, really quickly, my background with animals, with nature, well, started many, 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 many years ago when I was a teeny tiny tot, and always had an awareness that for me, nature is alive. Everything is alive. And I was really fortunate as a child living in the countryside where I would address nature as friends, allies, family, loved ones. Never heard anything back, but I'd be like, high stones, high sky, high winds, high leaves, high trees, high plants, high waters, always conversing with them. And then much later on in my young adulthood, I went to university, and my, I guess, academic background is in zoology and master's and PhD in conservation biology. So this continuation of love of nature, ecosystems, animals, sacred land has always been within me. And then I spent time working with captive wolves, and this took me on a journey of learning and exploring about canine wellness, really realizing that many people that I was meeting that came to be and interact with the captive wolves had a very different dialogue and a very different relationship to an animal that they coexisted, for example, their dog, and the conversations they were sharing and speaking with me in comparison to kind of what they were sharing with the wolves. And what I mean there is like there was this level of respect and appreciation and understanding of a wolf that they were only meeting for the first time, to the same level of respect and appreciation and understanding that they were sharing with me about their dog. So I was really curious around this, and I went on this journey around creating the Canine Wellness Wheel and talking really about our animal friends as ecosystems at an individual level and what we can understand to support our animal friends' wellness. But underneath and all the while running alongside that, I've always had this interest in sacred, in spiritual, in soul, in the more than human world or the more than physical world that we share our lives with. And so I've kind of culminated all of that together, and really now I deeply explore soul work, animals, nature, connection as a soul activist, as a spiritual or sacred ecologist. I'm also a shamanic practitioner. I'm a channeler of animal, plant, spirit consciousness. I'm also a grief tender, and I hold sacred ceremonies. So that is the holding of my ecosystem that brings me here today to passionately share really what our animal friends are sharing for us to hear, that they desire for us to move back into, and to move back into the concept of sacred ground. We as animals are the only life form that have left sacred ground. Our animal friends haven't. And so, whilst we are doing our best through reciprocity, as I see it, to support them in a physical world, in a physical body, and their emotional needs, their mental needs, their physical needs, their own spiritual needs, how all the while they are constant updates, like a beacon or a lighthouse. They're a constant update of where we are at in our soul journey, in our hurts, in our wounds, that for the most part we can't see, but our animal friends is pulling us. It's like the tug of war. Our animal friends are pulling us in the way that they know that we're ready for, to say, can you see it now? Can you see it now? Now can you see it? What about now? So it is kind of this tug of war, because what they're asking us to do is to come out of the mind. Our animal friends, they don't exist from the mind. They don't exist from thinking or thought. Now, they have a brain. I appreciate that. They can problem solve, they can work things out. I'm not dismissing that, but they don't spend their days thinking, oh, I wonder why you didn't take me to the beach today. And I really, really hate you. And I must be a really bad dog and you must really hate me. Or, oh, I wonder if I get into this car, I'm going to feel sick and unwell and I'm not going to enjoy it. Those emotional states happen in the moment, but they are not spending their days in these thoughts that us as humans can have, that kind of get conditioned to be thrown into the mind. What our animal friends are asking us to do is come back into this space of soul, which is sacred, which again I've shared. I'm going to talk all about in this talk, and that also involves being in our physical body that is a sacred temple. We are carriers of our soul within this sacred body and sacred temple. So, what it requires is for us to be fully present in our body, not fully present here, fully present in our animal body, which our animal friends are. It's something when we observe them, this concept of being in present moment is so true and so real. But not only that, or as well as that, they're so present because they're solid in their animal body and what their animal body is. So animal friends are not living from this place of thought. And also with that, and because of that, they actually don't care what we think. They're not bothered about what we're thinking. They are not wanting to address our mind and our thoughts. They're wanting to address our soul. And this is two beautiful statements, actually. So one statement, and you may have already come across this, is the longest journey we will ever go on is the distance from here to here. So it's not that far, but it's the longest journey as a human here right now in these times, is the longest journey we'll go on, is this distance. Our animal friends are already existing here. And there is another statement which I love so much. It's is an indigenous statement, or can be an indigenous statement. It also came from Einstein, where Einstein shared that the rational mind is a faithful servant, and the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. And we have chosen to live in a society that honours the servant and has forgotten the gift. So I'll share that again. The rational mind is a faithful servant. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift. But we live in a society that honours the servant and has forgotten the gift. And this also takes us to this concept of the tug of war, that our animal friends and really all of life is saying, hey, come back, we're pulling you back, we're pulling you into this intuitive mind that knows, that feels this sacred gift that you are. As soon as you were born, this sacred gift. But as humans, we get stuck in this train track of the faithful servant, of the mind and its thoughts, and how they become belief systems and stories and rights and wrongs and goods and bads, and I'm brilliant or I'm not brilliant, or no one likes me, or everybody loves me, or I need to be loved, or whatever it may be. And our animal friends are going, that's not sacred. The mind is not sacred ground. The intuitive mind is, but not the rational mind. Our soul is sacred ground. And so, what I want to share with this to start this concept of sacred ground is that our animal friends have never left this space. Our animal friends remember always that they're sacred. Our animal friends always are operating, feeling, responding from their intuitive mind, this sacred gift. And this is where they are addressing us as soul and also as a sacred body. And this is what's really beautiful about ourselves, that we are also animal. We are also physical body, a physical, living, breathing animal that is made up of matter. Matter does not think, it feels. Matter does not think, it feels. And when we are in fully our animal body and feeling, we are returning to sacred ground. We are conversing with soul. We are entering these spaces of understanding what is presenting to us, including our animal friends, from expressions of soul that they are. Actually, expressions of source, just like we are, that are currently in this animal body to go, hey, these difficult times are going to come, and we understand in ways that you have forgotten. And so we're going to pull you like that tug of war. We're just going to pull you on this thread in ways that can be soft and ways that can be sharp as messages for where we are at. And so as we enter this concept of soul and sacred, what that requires for us is to feel. And of course, we may say, well, I know how to feel. I know when I'm feeling sad. I know when I'm feeling happy. I know when I'm feeling excited. I know when I'm feeling tired. But deeply, deeply feeling in this sacred way, giving it a voice, giving it attention, giving it nurturing, tending to it. And this is the journey of our healing. Now, step number one, there are several steps to healing. And of course, our mind may make us believe that healing is about taking something away, fixing something, making something better, changing something, stopping something, understanding something from the mind. But these are processes that the mind likes in a way because it makes us feel comfortable and it makes us feel safe. But the soul is this ever expanding process and experience of what can I learn here? What is showing up for me? What is happening here from a place like I don't understand right now? And it's really scary and painful, but let me be with it. And so there is this beautiful statement from Carl Jung that shares in order to heal, we have to feel. And if we cannot feel, we cannot know what is real. Because what happens is if we cannot feel, we're in our head, our rational mind, and we're very busy making stories to things. We're feeding the very thing that actually we want to nurture and tend to and understand at the level of the intuitive mind, at the level of sacred, not from a place of it has to make sense to me, or I need to understand it, or how can I make it better, or how's it going to make me feel better, in this concept of, what are you? So, in order to heal, we have to feel. And if we cannot feel, we cannot know what is real. And Carl Jung also shared that we can only heal what we can separate from. We can only heal what we can separate from. And often what happens is that we attach, or our rational mind likes to attach these things that again we feed as stories. This happened to me, so I can't overcome it. This happened to me, and I don't know how to overcome it. This happened to me, and I'm too scared to even give it the attention it requires, so I put it out over there. Because what happens is we are taught in our society, in our times, to celebrate successes, achievements, things that make us all feel good. This thing over here that makes me feel like a failure, or makes me feel ashamed, or brings up grief, or brings up guilt, or brings up wounds, or brings up pain, or brings up fear, I'm going to keep it over there. And what happens, we keep it out in the cold, even though it's part of us. These things are parts of us that are asking to be looked at, to be heard, to be given a voice. And these things show up for me all the time. I am also working through this myself and have been for many, many years. And so what I'm able to do is I'm able to catch when that comes. It might be something around, oh, this is bringing up a pattern of still not being good enough, still the need to impress. So I call these parts to me, and I kind of sit them in front of me and metaphorically go, hey, here's a beer, here's a packet of crisps. What have you got to tell me? Here's my warm fire. How can I warm you? How can I tend to you so that I can also feel and heal these parts? And what this pattern in my life is showing up for me. Because something outside of me is a message for me. And this is exactly how our animal friends are showing up for us. Yes, in reciprocity, what we can do for them so they have a great life and a great transition, but also how our animal friend is showing up for us at this level of soul. And so, what the animals share with me is that they're actually windows. They are windows to our own soul. because they never left sacred ground. And what our animal friends represent in that way is the very first grief we had. The very first grief we had. And even sharing this, it makes me emotional. The very first grief we had, separation of our soul. When you separated from your soul. Because we were told that was the way to live. We were told that is the way that I'm going to be approved. That is the way I'm going to be accepted. That is the way I'm going to be liked. That's the way I'm not going to be laughed at. That's the way, that's the way. And our animal friends are here to go, no, you are soul. You are sacred. So as we show up in these ways for you, it's a message to come back to who you truly are, which is soul, which is sacred. And these parts that require ceremony. And so Michael Meade talks of the 3 layers of the human experience. Layer number 1 is the social layer, the pleasantries. How are you? How are the kids? Have a nice day. You going to that event next week? Great, I'll see you there. Bring that cake like you made last time. It was amazing. Just the social layers, the pleasantries. Layer number 3, and again, this also makes me emotional when I always share these words. Layer number 3 is contact with soul. That deathly silence of clarity. I've made contact with soul. I've made contact with my soul. I've made contact with something bigger than what I remembered that I was, and now I'm just remembering. I've made contact with the soul of my animal friend. I've made contact with the soul of the land, the soul of the plants, the soul of the stars. I've made contact with sacred. That's layer number 3. And the way that we are to move from layer number 1 to layer number 3 is layer number 2. And layer number 2 is the fires, is the heat of our lives that we carry, that present themselves, that are the experiences that have happened in our lives, that are the experiences that have happened in our past lives, that are the experiences that have happened in the lives of our ancestors. And so these all join as a thread, interwoven with the lives and experiences we've had with our animal friend that is here again in this life, in this moment now. So it is the pains, the fears, the worries, the shames, the judgments, the wounds, the guilt, the grief, and. That's layer number 2 of the human experience that we have to step into in order to access layer number 3. The bigger part that we are, the true, real, more than human part that we are, that is soul. I am here as sacred soul, and I've made contact again with my soul, this part that I started off as, that I separated from. And normally we separate from it because we have to feel safe, to feel accepted, to fit in. But this is what our animal friends show up for in our life, to go, no, no more. You are an expression of source, just as our animal friends are. But because they didn't leave sacred ground, they're reminding us, hey, see me as a window to your soul. I am source, just as you are. And remember your profoundness. Remember your mystery. Remember your magic. Remember the totality of who you are and what you're capable of. And this is the dance that we weave and lead with our animal friends, where we want the best for them. But in wanting the best for them, there's things that we see in them of, like, for example, maybe joy. For example, them not caring what we think. They don't care whether we like them or not in that way. If they want to do something and have fun, like, wow, this is really fun, I'm going to do it. These ways that we see our animal friends when they share with us, and really what they tell us in that way of, I really, really want to be like that. I want to be carefree and trusting and innocent and vulnerable as you, but I wasn't allowed. So you're not allowed to be either. And so we have this dance of, sometimes what is happening is that we can project our very wounds onto our animal friends. And that is okay, because this is really hard to notice. This is why I'm offering this talk. That is okay. It's also okay for our animal friends because, like, hey, we understand this. This is why we've come. We understand this. This is why we have come. And so in that moment, if by me sharing this right now, it's already bringing up charges, as I call them, charges of not feeling good enough, of like, oh my goodness, I feel really guilty even just by you sharing those words. Oh my goodness, the possibility of denying my animal friend and I didn't realize. That in itself is useful information. That in itself is what our animal friend is addressing to us. Of please, in these spaces, when I present something to you that is a charge, catch it, bring it into, don't put it out there, don't put it onto our animal friends, bring it in and go, wow, what are you? Who are you? How can I help you? What is it that you need? And so, what we love about our animal friends is their pure joy, their pure freedom, their pure excitement, their pure fun, their pure vulnerability, their pure, I'm not afraid to be seen in all the parts that I am. I'm not afraid to even be told off about that. I don't care whether you like it or not. I'm freely expressing myself. And there's those parts that we're like, oh, I would love to be that so much. And I still maybe don't dare, but I'm allowing my animal friend to have that freedom that I desire, but I don't dare. Or sometimes it becomes, I was not allowed that, or I don't dare to be that, so neither can you. And this is the dance because it doesn't matter if that is happening. This is useful information of how our animal friends are showing themselves as soul for this tug of war. This what are they pulling us? What are they pulling us into? And so when we have this concept of wow, we separated from soul, that brings up some wounds that we carry in that second layer of experience that maybe you're aware of or maybe we're not aware of. Maybe we are aware of, but we don't know how to talk about it, or it's too painful, it's too uncomfortable. Another step of healing is we have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. We have to get comfortable with the discomfort. And again, this is what our animal friends can present to us. When our animal friends bring forward these charges, when our animal friends present things that we don't like, that make us feel uncomfortable, that we don't understand, that we are telling ourselves to the rational mind, oh, I don't, what will someone else think if my animal friend is doing this? Or what will another person say? Oh, that makes me feel uncomfortable. I need to stop that, or I need to prevent it, or I need to change it, or I need to make it go away. And of course, in the concept of supporting our animal friends, there is a space and opportunity to do that. That isn't always what is necessary. Because what is necessary is how our animal friend is a window to our soul, asking us to come back to sacred and sharing this information to us in how they present, in what they show. And this itself is a journey. They, as soul, know what is going to come and when it's going to come through them. What are they going to show for us, knowing that our soul is ready for it? So this brings us into the space of trust, of just going, I don't know how it's going to come and when it's going to come, but I'm going to be alert and observe and just be aware of this other way of my animal friend being in my life as an expression of source, leading me back to sacred ground. And so they are, from this separation of soul, these two deeper griefs that may come forward, that we may recognize. And so the first grief that our animal friends can present to us, like I've shared, is when we were first separated from soul. But this leads us into one gateway of grief, which is known as the parts that did not know love. The parts that did not know love. The parts that did not know love. Hits you, right? The parts of ourselves that were denied. The parts of ourselves that were told you're not invited, you're not included, you're not worthy, you're not to be here. So, what do we do for safety? What do we do to be included, to be liked, to be valued, to just feel okay? We unconsciously put them out in the cold. And what happens is that we become hardened. Our heart becomes hardened. Things in our body can become hardened because parts of who we are no longer included. They've been put out of here. The parts that did not know love, the parts that weren't approved. And again, this is one of the things that our animal friends can feed back to us, that they accept themselves fully, that they approve themselves fully, and they accept and approve you fully. I always share that a Labrador's not running around going, oh, I wish I was a Great Dane and I wish I was golden rather than chocolate brown. They're like, whoa. They're not even thinking about who they are or should there be a different size or a different breed or, yet we are all the time, all the time. They already accept themselves, and through that they're saying, we accept you. And that's the difference between the approval and the acceptance. Approval is, how are you going to convince me that you have my worth? Acceptance is, you do not need to be any different to have my love. You do not need to be any different to have my love. And that's what our animal friends share, that they don't care whether they're liked by the human race or not. They already have that unconditional love, that love unlimited for themselves. They accept themselves fully in the way that they do not attach, define, or label to anything, including their own body. They do not attach to their body. They do not limit themselves to their body. And I'll talk about this in a little bit more soon. But they also share that with us of, hey, I see you. You do not need to be any different to have my love. And so they again are asking us to go back into accepting ourselves by bringing these pieces that we were told are not valuable, are not favorable, are not worthy to be approved, to be accepted, to be welcomed. And so we bring these parts back by loving ourselves without limits, just as our animal friends do about themselves and just as they do also about us. And another grief that is brought forward through our animal friends as windows to our soul is another gateway of grief that's called the things that we expected and did not receive. The things that we expected and did not receive. This may be, I expected love from elders, from role models, from parents, from guardians. When I was a child, I didn't get that. I expected a safe, warm, nurturing environment when I was a child. I didn't get that. I expected to be accepted and all parts of me to be accepted when I was a child. I didn't get that. As soul, I expected to be seen, to be witnessed, to be understood, to be heard, to be held, to be told, you are so important. You being here, being born, wow, wow. Without you, the rest of us are going to suffer. Without you and what you bring, it's a detriment to us all if you were not here. So what we expected, what our soul expected and often did not receive, is what we would call a village, a community, a social gathering, just like our animal friends, or I'm referring there to dogs, just like our dogs, we are social beings. We expect a village, we expect a community, this level of support where a circle gathers around us. The soul expected this circle. As a human, we expected something that we didn't receive. Being loved without limitations, being loved unconditionally, being accepted for who we are, being welcome for who we are, being told how important we are, not from ego, not for desires, not from to be impressive, but for our value. Wow, you are so important to this circle, to this community. Wow, thank you for being here for us. So our soul, or we separate from our soul from that first grief as a result of bit by bit by bit, the parts that were denied, bit by bit by bit, the things that we expected and did not receive. And so, what our animal friends represent as windows to our own soul are actually almost like figments of our imagination. I mean, of course, they are real because they're in physical form, but figments of our imagination, fragments of our psyche, all woven together so powerfully, so like we have created them in our imagination to come as a bundle of wool that is now alive through the magic like we have created, like a toy that comes to life, that interwoven and held with that fabric of our animal friend is the fragments, the weaving parts of our psyche, all parts of ourself, the parts that we love, the parts that we maybe don't like or love, the parts that we wish we had, the parts that maybe we wish we didn't have, all represented and being reflected through our animal friends that we've dreamt into existence as well. We've been dreaming this and dreaming this to go, I'm going to forget and I'm going to require something that can live really closely with me, that I am going to be capable of being vulnerable around, that my heart is going to soften and open with. And all the while, our animal friend is saying, hey, I am sacred just as you. I'm here to remind you of the soul that you are. And often with our animal friends, we still feel this separation. We still have this love and connection, but there's a separation of, this is what it means to be a dog, as an example. This is what my dog should be doing or not doing. Oh, this is how I want to change this or I want to fix this. Let me share for a moment that our animal friends do not live from a lifespan, and neither should we or do we at a level of soul. We all live from a soul span, which is infinite. Yes, this lifetime here as Isla is finite. I am going to leave this physical vessel whenever that may be. But my soul span is infinite. And because our animal friends have not left this place of sacred, have not separated from their soul, they operate from this place of soul span, of sacred time. Sacred time is very, very different to the time on these lands, the time on this earth. And sure, they're in it, they're with it, but they live from soul, which is where I go back to. They do not define, attach, or label to anything. They simply share as it is from soul and sacred, which is then in the expansive, unlimited nature of it all. Which brings me to when they transition. When their transition comes, it comes still through this continuation of the thread, the tug of war that they're pulling, like come back to sacred, come back to soul, come back to sacred, come back to soul, that they know has the potential to really pull us into sacred through their transition. Our animal friends, when that transition comes, because they live in soul span, they live from infinite. For example, if an animal friend transitions when they're 4 years old, they are not in their body going, oh, I'm only 4. How can this be so? I'm supposed to live to at least I'm 17 or 18. This can't be happening. We can be in that space, and rightly so, because we are supposed to grieve in honor of an animal that we love, in honor of something that's sacred. But how they see it is this is the continuation of their soul span, and also when their soul is to leave for what our soul needs. And I appreciate that that can be very confusing for the rational mind to hear. I appreciate that can be very hard to hear because, of course, we would want and desire for our animal friend to live for longer than what we can, because that journey of grief is painful and torturous at times. But this is the journey of soul, where we are also living from soul span that is infinite. We've died many times and will die many times again. And we've been in these journeys in physical form with our animal friends in different ways. Not me as Isla and not my dogs that I currently have, in different ways. And this is a continuation of didn't quite get to this in my past life. What is going to be the continuation of what I need? How am I going to see you again in this way? How did you support me? How can I support you? How did I support you? How can you support me? This continuation of existence of soul span. And so when that transition comes, there is a gift here that requires our grief journey, that requires certain steps, but there is a gift of we are leaving in this way. That's not really leaving. They just to just go back to source. We can still have a relationship and a continuation with them, but there is an understanding of their transition, when it is, how it is, because sometimes it's nice and soft of, oh wow, my animal friend at 17 just transitioned in their sleep. Sometimes it's really traumatic. So how that transition goes and when that transition is still a lesson and teaching for remembering who we are. It's still a lesson and teaching, a message to our soul, because our animal friends are addressing our soul. They're not speaking to our mind. They're not addressing our mind. They don't care about that, and they equally do not want us to live in that space. So they're like, this is for your soul. This is a message for your soul. This is medicine for your soul. My wolf dog, who's now transitioned to Ngasila, used to share or has shared that animal friends are in our lives to be the elixir of our spiritual amnesia. Our animal friends are in our lives to be the elixir of our spiritual amnesia. And so when that transition comes, this is a beautiful, because it's so powerful, and it's so powerful because it hurts so much. It hits us hard, as a potential, as a invitation, as an opportunity to go, feel it now. Can you feel this now? And through their transition, all that it unravels. And what it unravels is the grief journey. And of course, the rational mind will give it a story. I'm grieving because my animal friend transitioned. I'm grieving because of the trauma in how my animal friend transitioned. I'm grieving because my animal friend transitioned. And of course, and there is an element of that being true, because we are supposed to grieve with any change, any loss. There is a grief ritual around it. But when the rational mind hooks onto it and feeds it, we can't see past the blocks of the mind. We need to feel it and go into the soul of what is this about? And often what it's about, when we are ready and able through our healing journey to feel, is to go all the way back. What it represents, what it awakens, is not the grief of our animal friend's transition. It is that, but it's not just that. It's all the griefs. All the griefs. Starting with the grief of separating from soul. And we go on, it's like we have a basket, we have a medicine basket. We start to collect them. We start to collect all the griefs. All the griefs. When did I first separate from my soul? And that's sad. And that's grief. And that requires a ceremony. And when did I put all these bits over here, the parts that did not know love? How do I collect these and give them love and give them thanks and ask for forgiveness and tell them how amazing they are and how they are already accepted? And where did I not get the things that I expected and did not receive? Not from a place of material gains or goods or desires, from that place of soul. I've fallen as sacred. I'm to be witnessed. I'm to be valued. I'm to be have this joy and celebration. The circle, the community, the village that we collect, we gather in all these ways. So that's my medicine basket as well, my medicine bundle. Ultimately, then, this concept of ceremony, those three layers of the human experience. Layer one, the social layer. Layer three, making contact with sacred ground, making contact with soul. To get to layer three, we've got to go through layer two. The pains, the griefs, the hurts, the wounds, the judgments, the shames, the guilt. To get from layer two to layer three requires ceremony. This is what our animal friends are inviting us into as expressions of source, as soul that has never been separated, and also as windows to our own soul. Be in ceremony. And that in itself is an entire different subject and topic. But there are different ways to get started in these ceremonies. And one powerful way is actually through our animal friends' transition. That their transition as soul, as sacred, and as a sacred soul and sacred animal that is now leaving their sacred temple, their sacred animal body, and going back to source, going back to consciousness, out of a limited body, still connected to us, but out of a limited body, where when they transition, and this just blows my mind and just gives me so much comfort that when our animal friends transition, they're both ancestor and spirit guide for us. When our animal friend comes to visit us, which is what the animals share with me, that they're just coming to visit for a while, they are visiting as an ancestor and a spirit guide that's come cleverly disguised in animal form to go, just going to check in on how you're doing and bring you these messages. Hopefully, you can see them. But when they transition, they are still our family and friends. When they transition, they are welcomed and met by so much. And I really share this. I'm not just saying this. They are welcomed by so much that will also, we will be welcomed when we transition. But that connection is still there. But when they transition, they become ancestor and spirit guide for us that we can call upon for advice, for comfort, for ceremony, for sharing, for healing, all these different ways. But what their transition requires and should require is a ceremony because it's deep. It often feels like we've lost a part of ourselves. Their invitation in their transition is now. This is coming now for many, many reasons at a level of the soul. It's coming now as an invitation to go, we feel that it is time for this to be felt, and you are ready for it, and we ask you to see it now. And so their transition requires a ceremony, both for them in honoring them, and also for the pain it feels for us and our grief journey. A ceremony is required because a transition, loss in any way, I should say, is an initiation. Because it hurts. We feel it, it's painful. But when our animal friends transition, because of what they represent, because in a way that we actually may start to realize now from what I'm sharing, or you may already have known all along, wow, thank you for coming into my life and being that medicine to make me realize how I'd separated from soul. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But our animal friends also, as sacred, ask for this ceremony, for their life and their spirit and for who they are to be honored. And this is very individual. This is so different and infinite unique that I can't even make it up. By going into the ceremony, we can receive information for them and from them of what would they like. And sometimes it can be as simple as lighting a candle. Sometimes it can be as complex as creating a song and buying things. Certainly it's around creating an altar. But there's different ways that we can hold ceremony for them. And at the same time, we hold ceremony for our grief. Because one of the things that we often do with grief, because we don't know how to be with it, we don't have the circle, we don't have the community, we don't know how to be around others, others don't know how to be around us. We may be going through what's called disenfranchised grief, where it's like, oh, it's only an animal, like, you're not over that already. So we feel like we can't share it. So it becomes one of those griefs that we put out over here. The parts that did not know love, the parts that could not be spoken about. And so again, we carry it, we hold it, it becomes hardened. But what can happen through the ceremony is that it's again like the flame of the candle. It becomes warm, it becomes hot. We give heat, we give fire, we give flame to it. And like when we're cooking some stew on the stove and it's simmering away, we see all the things kind of go up and round and down, up and round and down. This is the healing journey, my friends. It's up and around and down. It's not the concept of the rational mind that we'll see an advert that goes, got a headache, take a tablet, knee inflamed, put on some cream. This is a long walk where iteration after iteration after iteration, including the iteration of our animal friends coming into our lives and transitioning, is still an iteration for messages for our soul. You are separated from your soul. Come back to this space. Come back to sacred. Come back to your intuitive mind. Come back to ceremony. Remember who you are. And so, again, the ceremony is individual and unique for each of us for our grief experience. But we've got to go into the grief journey. And what is powerful is the ceremony that is created for our grief journey and for the transition of our animal friends. And I'm going to share quickly that I've had a few animal friends in my life, and I have a particular story around the fear that I had around the transition, or at that time I would have called it death, of my animal friend. I now understand it's not really a death, it is a transition. But when my wolf dog Tunkasila transitioned, she was an absolute, we all have them, my heart dog, my soul dog. We'd been through a lot together. She saved me from taking my own life. She saved me from um, leaving an abusive marriage. We have been on a long journey. She taught me about trauma, soul retrieval. She kind of took me down this shamanic path, really. She's such a wise, wise, wise being that I connect with still. She speaks to me. I work with her in all these different ways that I never realized until she transitioned. But what I did, and this was for me the power of the ceremony, the realization of actually the power of the ceremony. I told all my family and friends when Tunkasila was close to transitioning. I shared with them like, I'm fine. I'm really comfortable around death and transition. I'm really like I appreciate and I'm grateful that I have a different relationship to many of us. But I'm also going to be a mess, right? She has when she transitions, it is going to represent so much. It symbolizes so much, and wow, I'm gonna be a mess. So I don't know what I'm gonna need. I might just need to go away. I might not need to speak. I don't know what I need. But just everyone, I'm gonna be fine, but I'm gonna be a mess. And together, before she transitioned, together through dreaming, through spirit, through sacred, through this sense of this means so much to me. You mean so much to me that I want to do this the best of my ability. What do we do? And for 2.5 days, I was in a ceremony. And when her transition came, the only way I can describe it is a little bit like when we've had the hiccups. We've had the hiccups, our body is used to doing this, the hiccups stop, but our body is kind of waiting for that reaction to come. There was none. Sure, I cried and I was sad and oh, I miss you. I went through all of that. But this deep, deep grief, this deep, oh, the ceremony and what came through the ceremony just changed it. And that is getting me and took me to sacred ground. That is the power of ceremony. It leads us to sacred ground where we make contact with soul and where we are in contact with soul and something else happens. Something different happens and it becomes powerful in the way that our grief journey requires it, in the way that our animal friends require it from what they are and who they were in animal body and how we want to honor them by being a sacred animal that they were and going back to sacred in the more than physical world, in the more than human world, in the unseen that we are connected to, because we will go back to the unseen when we are to leave our animal body. And so, what I find through their transition, where we tell ourselves, I'm grieving, I'm grieving, I'm grieving, what that opens us up to is actually just all the griefs, all the times we have had a grief and not given it ceremony. It also opens up to where we may call it grief. I'm grieving, I'm grieving, I'm grieving. hidden behind grief, particularly with our animal friends, is it's actually not grief, it's guilt. So many people come to me, you know, I chose to have my animal put to sleep. Did I leave it too long? Was it not long enough? Should I have waited? It's again the guilt, another wound, another grief of all the times we were made to feel guilty that weren't just even true. They were just not true, but yet we were made to feel guilty. And so we go around our lives looking, searching for a reason of being safe. I don't want to feel this way again. I don't want someone to blame me again. I don't want to be told I'm bad again. So we go looking for it, searching for it, seeking for it to go, oh, yeah, there's another example. Okay, yeah, my bad. I feel guilty. Of course, generally owning up when we're like, do you know what, my bad. Like, I unintentionally didn't mean to cause harm. I understand now from my actions how this may have caused upset or whatever it may be. But that place of the rational mind that looks for how can I pass judgment? How can I pass blame? How can I pass shame? How can I pass criticism? The very first time we're made to feel guilty, that again through our animal friends transition, they're like, hey, sweetheart, you have got nothing to feel guilty about. And we want you to understand this. That can come through the charge of grief that is felt through our transition. That behind the grief is not grief, or there still can be grief, but there's guilt. And they're asking us through their transition to go, let's heal that now. Let's dissolve that. Let's give it heat. And through that heat, it can be dissolved. Because what I will share with you, and again, the rational mind will be like, this makes no sense what at all. As I'm sharing here, I'm sharing to your soul. I'm addressing your soul. I'm speaking to your soul, just as like our animal friends do. They don't care what we think. They're not speaking to our mind. They do not want to speak to our mind. Why? Well, that's a question of the mind. But why? Because this, when we are receiving information, on some level, we already have a belief system around it. So on some level, we're like, okay, that makes sense to me. On some level, I understand and I agree with it. Therefore, it's good and it's right and it's correct. On another level, it may be, this makes no sense to me because on some level, I don't believe it. I don't agree with it. So I'm dismissing it. The soul is not right or wrong or good or bad or black or white or this or that. The soul is this meandering, interconnected, infinite weave of everything to go, oh, okay, this is happening and I don't quite understand why. Let me explore. Let me see what's behind it. Let me see the charge, the pattern. How is sacred bringing this to me? How can I go to the feeling with it? So, what I want to share is even if we have been in those experiences and situations where we have chosen for our animal friend to be euthanized, and we are bringing up this feeling of, I feel I can't even talk about it, Isla. Don't even, I mean, you're mentioning it, it's too uncomfortable. As soul, they are also involved in when their soul leaves. So, whilst our mind may say to us, well, I made that decision, I made that choice of, I rang the vet came to my house, so I chose when my animal friend left. Yes, and also no. Their soul also chose, yep, this is when it's going to happen. And this is how it's going to happen for what it's going to activate within us, for what we are ready for now, and what our animal friends are leaving for us as a gift when they transition. And what their transition can also bring is almost like this overriding shock, horror, sense of abandonment almost, is this other gateway of grief, the things we expected and did not receive. But because how our animal friends live from that place of sacred and live from that place of intuition, intuitive mind in their animal body, there's no right or wrong, or you're a bad person, I'm going to judge you, or you should feel ashamed. The things that we expect did not receive, what we expected was unconditional love. And what we receive from our animal friends is unconditional love. And when they transition, this can also be the shock of, oh, am I going to get that unconditional love ever again? Am I going to receive that? Am I going to? And yes, yes, you are, because it comes from self. Yes, yes, you are, because your animal friend that has transitioned is ancestor and spirit guide. They still send and share and give you unconditional love. Yes, because everything except all humans, because we are all in our own journey around these wounds and griefs and stories on our own, coming back to soul, coming back to sacred. Everything else loves us unconditionally. The trees, the stars, the winds, nature, animals, the plants, the waters. There is so much. We are part of so much. And this is what our animal friends bring us back to by being windows to our own soul. And a final grief that I wish to share, or what comes from behind that grief, is this concept of where do we try and control what is happening in our lives from this separation of soul? Because our rational mind wants to understand it. If I can control this, then I know what's going to happen. If I can control this, then I know what's going to happen. The concept of like, well, if I don't know, well, that's too scary. Well, how can I prepare? How can I know I'm going to be safe? How can I? But the soul, it's like, it's okay. This is happening in a way that is so much bigger and so much greater than the mind can understand. Because soul and sacred doesn't care about the mind. Soul and sacred doesn't care what the mind thinks. Soul and sacred is not speaking to the mind. The mind cannot understand soul and sacred because soul and sacred is infinite. Soul and sacred doesn't need a story in which to feed, doesn't need an outcome, doesn't need an answer. It is a continuous exploration of, oh, how does this make me feel? How does this make me feel? And so in our animal friends transition, that is really powerful in their way of going, can you feel that soul now? Can you return to ceremony now? Can you come back to sacred now? And also in the way that it's supposed to happen, not just in their transition, but when it happens. That this is an ongoing journey, that if we are to recognize it then we're to recognize it then. If we recognize it later, then we're recognizing it later. If we're sitting here now going, oh my goodness, I didn't offer my animal friend a ceremony that transitioned X number of years ago, they didn't need it. This is all part of getting you to here. And from here, it's all part of getting you to 5 years, 10 years, wherever we may be. It's these iterations that the mind wants to understand and know and have an answer for, but in a way that we already believe or feel comfortable with. The soul is, this is just another iteration. And it will come to me when it's supposed to come to me. It will come to me when it's supposed to come to me. And so we can be in this space of seeing our animal friends in these ways that when they are in our life, when they transition and how they pull us into our grief journey, of we can ask that question, what is my animal friend presenting to me? So when they are in our life, how our animal friend is asking us to come back to soul, come back to feeling, come back to body, to sacred, and live as sacred animal with them. Live as sacred soul with them. So we are conversing, connecting, feeling soul to soul. And so one of my questions often is, what is your animal friend presenting to you? And it might be, I've done so much soul work that I just feel so much peace, so much happiness, so much acceptance that I'm living in this space with my animal friend. I see them and that they're expressing. And sure, they have some responses that the human world may tell me my animal friend is not good or is wrong or is bad or whatever it may be. But I see them and I see them as soul, and they share with me how this makes them feel, and they share with me who they are as soul and what they're showing me. Oh, this may be completely new, where we can really be with this question of what is my animal friend presenting to me? And to really be with the charge and to feel it. Going back to, in order to heal, we have to feel. And the first step of healing, as I shared before, it's not the take a tablet, it's going to go away. Unfortunately, this is what's hard for us as well in these times where we live, in these circles or disconnected circles where we live, is that we're conditioned, or the rational mind is programmed quick, quick fix, quick, now, now, now. What ceremony will teach you and show you is the ceremony is complete when the soul says it's complete. When Tunkasida transitioned, I was in ceremony for 2.5 days. Yes, I rested. Sometimes for one of the nights, I stayed up till quite late at night until my body was like, we're done, let's go to bed and let's go into some dream work. But the ceremony ends when it ends. And as humans, that can be impatient, or where the mind likes to get involved. Okay, can we stop now? Can we do something else? I'm bored. How is it going to take? I don't want to be uncomfortable. But we have to step into these spaces. And so through our animal friend, when they're in our life and in their transition, what are they presenting to us? To be with that charge, that feeling of like, again, we are taught, or it can be too uncomfortable because we've had all of our life being told, you're wrong, I'm blaming you, you're wrong. I don't want to, like, I feel bad enough about myself already. I already blame myself enough already. I don't need any more. Thank you very much. It already feels too much. So we, again, do it unconsciously so, or we're taught, it's you. You are wrong. You're at fault. And what that brings forward, and again, as our animal friends beautifully going, it's okay. We're here to do this with you, to reflect to you the projections that we put onto our animal friends because of the oppressive systems that were put onto us. Going back to how I started this of I was not allowed to be myself, so neither can you. And all the while, what they're sharing with us like, you were always allowed to be yourself, as am I. So just be yourself. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Be yourself. Now, I always say, as long as you're not an arsehole, for me, I'm like, arsehole, get that out there. But in all these ways of, you are already good enough because you are soul and sacred, just like our animal friends know. I don't care what you think. I know I'm good enough. And this is the journey that I am on. And so when our animal friends bring that to us, we can look at, through curiosity and no shame or blame, wow, how is my animal friend going? It's okay. It's hard for you humans. We understand that. It's okay, and that's why we're here. But can you see the oppressive system that you're now putting onto me? And that is the healing journey for ourselves. Well, we're not worthless, and we never were worthless. We're just wounded. And our animal friends will go, hey, let us be medicine for that. Let us be the elixir to your spiritual amnesia. To know as sacred and soul, through ceremony and entering sacred ground and through your soul work, that you are perfect as you are, and you do not need to be any different to have my worth and to have my love. So as we start to explore this with our animal friends, as softly as we can, in a space and way, because there is no rush here and there is no blame, of recognizing when a charge comes. And I always call it a charge. It's something like, oh, when it might be when our animal friends frustrate us, when our animal friends may maybe make us feel angry, when our animal friends are bringing in impatience or whatever it may be, that's the charge we go to. Because there's an expression that I use that says the experience itself is irrelevant. What's relevant is the feeling behind it. So the experience itself is irrelevant. What's relevant is the feeling behind it. And what I mean by this is not the experience is irrelevant. Of course, it's relevant if our animal friend's transitioned. Of course, it's relevant if our animal friend is hurting. But it's the feeling behind it. Because what's being brought up in that moment that our animal friend's soul is bringing forward for us to feel as a charge, is the feeling that was placed into us, that got put out over here, that is asking to be integrated, that is asking then to be separated and discharged and dissolved, so we become more whole and to become more soul. And so when Carl Jung shared, we cannot heal what we cannot separate from, that's one of the very things of like, wow, how do I separate from this sense of not being good enough? How do I separate from all these times I was told that I am not worthy, or I got laughed at, or I'm to blame, or I'm always going to get it wrong? There's a separation. And that is also a grief. And so in our grief journey, which is a journey, there is a process, a ceremony, a need, tools, techniques, rituals, ceremonies to separate from the grief. Yes, we are to be with the grief. And ultimately, as souls and windows to our soul, that's what our animal friends offer in a way that they know that transition is going to come now. And in that moment, having listened to this talk, you may like, oh, that makes sense to me. I can see it. Maybe it doesn't make sense to me, but I'm going to trust it. My soul knows, my soul trusts. Or it may be, now I can see it. Now I can see it. That is clear. That makes sense. Now I can see it. So, my invitation to you is, what is your animal friend presenting to you in life, in transition, and in your grief? An example I'm going to give you is my current two dogs, Manitou and Lilu, when they were adolescents. So at first, obviously, they're like walking off lead, and then I'm getting them used to harnesses and being on the lead, and they were walking beautifully, and we were a bit like, this is amazing. And then they get to adolescence, and now they're really pulling on lead. If I wasn't aware of charges, oh, I'm getting angry. Like, you're pulling, it's your fault. Like, stop pulling on the lead. Bad dogs, it's your fault. Rah. And what I was curious of is like, whoa, when they pull on the lead, my body, like this pushing pull, oh, the charge that came was anger. And I'd be the first to say, I would consider myself not an angry person. But I'm like, there's a charge there. There's a charge there of anger. Wow. My mind wants something outside of self to go, what's to blame? What's causing this? Oh, it's my dog. Well, they shouldn't pull on lead. Bad dogs. But my soul goes, no, Isla. This is still my animal friend in that experience going, I want you to catch this charge and be with it. So not in that space when I'm walking the dogs, not in that day when I got home because I was too busy. But the beauty of being in a modern day world when I can get my phone and go into my notes and go, look at your anger. The charge that came up in this was anger. So I'm constantly, as best as I can, because I'm still in this work myself, is noticing when the charges come and going into a ceremony around anger, feeling it. Who are you? This anger that I've put out over here. What are you? Who are you? This anger. And yeah, some of that anger was from frustrated Isla when she wasn't heard and listened to and understood as a little girl. When she's like, I matter too. I might be a child, but I know what's right for me because it is my body, not yours. And so I kind of went through a process of that and a grieving of that. And I was like, is that it? And I was like, no, this anger is not just mine. This anger is my mum's and my grandma's and my great grandma's and maybe other ancestors as well. But I got back to my great grandma and I'm like, wow. And then I went to my body. I'm like, whoa, this anger I have knee sensitivities. I used to say, "Go, I've got bad knees." My knees are beautiful. They're not bad. My knees are beautiful and do so much for me. But I do have challenges with my knees as information. And I was like, wow, that anger that is in my knee, that's where it's become hardened. And all this while. And so again, through journey and journey and journey of the ceremony and the ceremony, thanks to my animal friends, I've gone way here as windows to your own soul to come more back to soul and more back to sacred. This is the journey, the path, the walk, iteration, 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 is to be with this anger. And I'm sure something else will come and something else will come, and it's lifelong and lives long. But our animal friends that have fallen into this beautiful, gorgeous animal body that we honor, that we protect, that through reciprocity we want to do the best for and understand as best as we can for what they offer us, not just through loving us unconditionally, but underneath that at a level of soul that is far more wide and expansive and powerful and beautiful and healing. That they are expressions of source disguised in this beautiful form of animal, reminding us to be a window of our soul from when our soul, or from when we separated from our soul, to enter the ceremony around that of the griefs, of the wounds, that they are a bundle of our own psyche. What do we like about our animal friends? in reflection of what do we like about ourselves? What do we not like about our animal friends that are charges for us as useful information for what we carry? Where with our animal friends do they hold things that we wish we had? They're just so innocent. They're so fun. They hold so much joy. They're not afraid to be who they are in their wholeness. What are the things that we wish we didn't have that we may see in our animal friends? And how they're asking us to be in sacred by going through those layers of the human experience, that they're here to go, it's okay, we're here with you. And we do not judge you. We accept you as we accept ourselves. And so I will leave you with this invitation through this talk, if it has landed, if it is being processed, to go forward and remember that you are sacred and you are soul, and that your animal friend is a window to your own soul, inviting you to remember this through what they are sharing with you, the charges that come, and not giving yourselves a hard time, doing your best. And to ask yourself, what is your animal friend presenting to you in life, through their transition, and also in your grief journey? Knowing that in your soul span, you are infinitely connected. That this is a continuation. And I could share so much more, but I wish to leave you with this as medicine, addressing your soul, speaking to your soul, so that it is felt, that it can be rejoined, and that you can go forward from this moment being with your animal friend in this way of sacred and contact with soul. I am here to support you, to be of service in this way of exploring how you can enter sacred ground with your animal friend in your life together, in their transition, and in your grief journey. Whichever weave and thread we are to go on to bring you to this space in a way that is soft and in a way that you are ready for here in your soul journey, knowing that that will continue. So if you have enjoyed this talk and you're curious, your soul is asking, or you wish to explore more, please, my door is open. Be part of a circle, a village, a community that your soul always expected and that your soul is searching for. To coexist with your animal friend from this place of soul and sacred and ceremony. I send you love and I honor you with many blessings. To you and your animal friend, with deep gratitude for wanting to be in this space and receive in this way. May your journey be well, and thank you. I'm going to close this space now. Through our connection in this way being complete, I wish you well.